I'm in the mood for some shrimp scampi.
Just repeat to yourself, hey, it's just a show. I should really just relax. For Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Okay, everybody, this is a thing that you're listening to that we're about to do. The Journey into Mystery, where Trent and I, and maybe sometimes other people, we'll just talk about an episode of Mystery Science Theater. You know what? I'm willing to go all the way back to KTMA as well.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
But should it be Journey into Mystery, or should it be Journey into Mystery?
Mystery! You can say that if you want. I can't stop you. Well, and, yeah, we'll just go through it. I'm figuring we'll just talk about the movie. We'll talk about what's cut. We'll talk about the sketches. You know, actually, now that I think about it, I wouldn't mind doing some of the story-based MST spin-offs like Film Crew and Cinematic Titanic.
Oh, I think they totally fit. They're definitely in...
We'd have to get you a copy of the... If you don't own the Cinematic Titanic DVD set, you might want to. It's not very expensive. It's got some good stuff on there.
Oh yeah. In a pinch, we might be able to use something like Rabbit.
Yeah. All right. But no, we just thought this would be a good idea to kind of keep the creative juices flowing and all that. And
I assure you all, I am not, in fact, dead.
Yeah, he is not dead. We would know. But and so my plan is to do this semi-random, pick episodes out of a hat. But I wanted to start off with Robot Holocaust for a couple reasons. One, that sweet clickbait of first season. Yeah, right, that's not going to happen. But, yeah, they're going to come running to this.
Yeah, the really Dramamine servo and so forth.
Hey, I like Josh. But, also, just because this was my introduction to Mystery Science, I had seen nothing about it until I was home sick from school one day and just watching the Comedy Channel back when it was... Actually, I think it was still CTV at the time.
Mm.
When Comedy Central first started as CTV, and they had like 6 shows with actual people in them, and at least 3 of them were clip shows. Another 2 or 3 were some sketch work, and then they'd show you an episode of Supercar or something like that. You know, stuff that is funny just because it's old. And then they got Mystery Science Theater, which was the only thing that wasn't shot in a studio in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the most expensive-looking show on the channel at the time.
And that was back in the season 1.
Yeah, and this is season 1, remember.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't remember my first Mystery Science Theater because my first exposure was at a Turkey Day marathon at a friend's house.
So you got a whole pallet load dumped on you.
That I did.
Yeah, no, for me it was just I was just homesick and I'm flicking around and I see and we'll talk about Invention Exchange too, but I see this guy, he's talking with these robot puppets. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cute, and he pulls out I got this nitro burning funny pipe, and he lights up and boom, open flame at like 8 inches from his face, and I'm like, you have my interest now?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then they hit the movie, and we're not going to talk about Commando Cody too much here, I think.
No, we're giving Commando Cody his own treatment eventually.
His own dedicated one. We'll usually talk about shorts when it's relevant, but there's just so much Commando Cody to go over and not a lot of variety to it.
Oh, yeah.
But then they hit Commando Cody, and I'm like, okay, this is funny, and then...
Right the plywood.
Okay, you sold me on this premise. I have watched, and then I hurt myself for the next 2 hours laughing. Because this was like... It was a natural extension of everything CTV was doing at the time with having, here's this old stuff that's funny, but then they actually made it funnier.
Yeah,
I was kind of hooked from there.
My exposure was interesting because I was part of a small group of people who was like, oh, this is like something I know. Because there was an old show, an old series that I forget what channel it came on. It came on late. It was something like Night Flicks or Night Flights or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I loved that show, but I could never like catch it on purpose. But that was humorous. It was like everything was a "What's Up, Tiger Lily." They just redubbed
Hmm.
old public domain things, and they got like a hold of the first issues of the first like episode of like Power Rangers, like what was Power Rangers in Japan, the
Hmm.
the Dino, the Dino
Yeah,
Force one,
yeah.
and they would just
See,
do.
I'm also remembering. I'm also remembering there was actually. I don't remember if it was actually released in theaters, but there was a thing called "It Came from Hollywood," which is kind of a precursor to MST. It's got like Dan Aykroyd and Gilda Radner
Oh, I think I
and a bunch of
saw
other.
that.
Yeah, I remember seeing that well before Mysteries, and and it has bits where they are effectively riffing on it.
Hmm.
Not great riffing, but riffing nonetheless.
Yeah. And,
And a lot of those movies ended up on Mystery Science, so I had already, had this in my head that, these old cheeseball movies could be fun, and then here's some guy with some puppet pals and open flame.
and one thing that I will say about the Mads is that they did never recognize their greatest invention, which was shooting a prop comic into space.
Yeah, yeah, that's I think they did a benefit to mankind that way in more ways than one.
Yeah, that's probably why they never focused on it, because they're evil. It's like it's like being Doctor Doom, and your greatest accomplishment is that you accidentally cured cancer. I mean, do you get to claim that in any way other
Yeah.
than just rubbing it in Reed's smug face?
I mean, I'm not sure how much I would, pay to shoot Carrot Top into orbit.
Well, I said prop comic, not prop person.
Oh, yeah, okay. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I'm sorry. It's like,
And I mean, Gallagher's already basically exiled himself, so we don't need to worry about that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, when you're 8, Gallagher is hilarious because it's produce being smashed with a hammer, and
But
really,
shall we talk let's talk about the movie
yeah.
first
Let's
before we
get
really
to
get
the point.
Robot Holocaust. Now, I got some fun facts for.
Hit us with the fun facts.
Okay, Tim Kincaid, the writer, producer, etc., is known by several different names. One of those names is Joe Gage, which you may or may not know as one of the pioneers of gay pornography.
Okay.
And that is my dog scratching his chin behind me. And you can tell. Not that this movie is shot like a porn. There's no lingering gaze. There's no. It's not. There's nothing inherently sexy about this, despite a scene later, which we will also discuss.
Hmm.
The acting, however, is absolutely porno level.
Oh, yeah.
It is say your lines and then shut down until your next line.
Hmm. And
It's
the sort of the second in command bad guy, the evil girl.
yeah.
Yeah, she seems to also be of that, like an exemplar of that style of acting.
Yeah.
Right down to the I don't know where in Pottsylvania they found you, but
She's like the predecessor to Natalie from Werewolf.
yeah, it's like at a certain point,
Paul, you and your daughter are doomed.
a Hercules Goes Bananas level dub would not be remiss in that area.
Yeah.
I am Hercules.
I mean, I looked up a lot of the cast, and it kind of surprised me that none of them were porn actors.
Maybe they worked under aliases.
But we do
when they
have
were.
two people who I want to talk about.
Okay.
The first is good old Torque, the guy in the costume who played Torque.
Rick
Where? Okay,
Gianski.
Rick Gianassi.
Gianassi, yeah.
Gianassi?
Gianassi.
Gianassi.
That's a D&D monster.
Yes. Who is probably best known as Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I could definitely...
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like...
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah, it's like... Well, they weren't involved in porn. Oh, that's surprising. But they were involved in trauma. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Well, when I was looking up a lot of these people, I would find out... Guess how many credits these people had on average on their IMDb page?
4.
You're over by 1.
3?
For the most part, people had 3 or fewer.
Oh yeah, I am looking at
and
this.
a lot of them were in another movie that I think called Breeders. But like the mute oh, why have I just blanked on the fuckwad's name? The cat scratch fever dude. Ted Nugent.
Ted Nugent, yeah.
Yeah, he has 1 credit, and it's this. But yeah, we've got a bunch of people who were like in Breeders. We've got a couple people who kind of hung around the schlock exploitation scene.
Mm-hmm. Oh, looks
but
like...
But then we have the woman who played angry Amazon lesbian, because of course there's one of those in this movie.
Is that Nyla? The actress is Jennifer
Yeah,
Delora?
Jennifer Delora.
Yeah, I'm looking at her Internet Movie Database thing
she
here.
She has a long career of not... I mean, she was in Frankenhooker, so there's that going for her. Suburban Commando. But what I wanted to bring up was something that I'm actually kind of interesting to see if I could find it all. A TV series called Deaf Perspectives, where she was a producer and director for it.
Weird.
Which is apparently just a show about helping deaf people.
That's a good
here
move
we go.
for one of the
Informative
people.
talk show done in American Sign Language with voice interpretation for hearing audiences. Domestic violence in deaf community. Yeah, just all these important topics for the deaf, and how it impacts the deaf community. I'm just kind of...
That definitely seems like a left turn from the rest of this filmography, which included, not 4 years earlier, a named role in Frankenhooker.
Yeah.
Which is one of those movies I would always see at the video store, but would never rent because my mother would have killed me.
Oh, wait, she was also in a Panic at the Disco LA video short, LA Devotee, as the female cult leader.
Yeah, and the thing...
She's had an interesting career, hasn't she?
Yeah. I'm really wondering what Electric Blues 53, 55, 56, and 57 are. Because anything that gets that many sequels is probably a porn. And she plays a different character in each one. But what other trivia do you have, if any?
Well, that was about all I had for the cast, just because, I mean, I think the guy who plays Jorn also has like one, the Mike will not give in to your demand. Okay, yeah, 1 credit.
Yeah, it's
scriptwriter and actor for stage and television, and yet he has like 1 credit for anything on his IMDb page. That doesn't really
Yeah, this is a piece of Italian filmmaking.
Is it?
Yeah, according to the Internet Movie Database, film was released theatrically in Italy, and in the U.S. it was released direct to video. And
that, I'm not shocked at that at all.
Yeah, no, it felt very Italian-y. I'm not just saying because of like the nature of the effects and things were very similar to Italian exploitation movies in the 80s. But also there's something about the film grain and the way the sets look that looks a whole lot like a lot of stuff I've seen from the Italian blood-soaked age of the 80s.
Find a disused lot outside New York.
Mm-hmm.
Film in as many, rock quarries and ancient factories as you can get. Because, this this is always, and also this is like apparently really early in Tim Kincaid's career, which really kind of makes me wonder, like, what he was going for. Because I have this thing where I tend to want to understand why somebody. Okay, he did a lot of porn titles before this,
Hmm.
and then Bad Girls Dormitory, and then Robot Holocaust and Breeders in 1986. I'm just when I try and figure out what was the message that was trying to be sent.
I can
What
put together a
what
profitable movie. I think was probably the main intent. Um,
Italy's going to give me money to do this.
well, the other thing is that like, even though this is a B movie, or more accurately, probably a D.
Yeah.
Um, not to, yeah, we've back invented a whole grading system, but yeah, it's low end schlock, but it's ambitious, and it may just be a hey, let me direct for something real.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's
I'm not just a porn director.
right. I've made this science fiction film. It made X amount of money on X amount of investment. Let me shoot an episode of Night Court. Whatever it is.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, that's something else about it. It's clearly ambitious, but has the budget of your average YouTube show,
Yeah, I was gonna say
even adjusted for inflation.
an episode of '80s Doctor Who, but and by that I mean an episode, not a serial, not all
Yeah.
4 to 6 episodes that they put together into a single story. No, just one of those.
Yeah.
But
Because like the costumes, while the robot costumes look nothing like robots, they are they're not incompetent costumes.
if you saw somebody wandering around in them at like Comic-Con, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good critter costume.
Yeah, and while the like Crow, as Crow puts it,
Worst matte painting yet.
and it is really sad. It's still like they knew what a matte painting was and what you used it for,
Oh yeah, they had things like matte paintings, and honestly,
and process shots, and
their puppetry wasn't bad.
yeah,
The worm monsters, yeah.
yeah, and the simulated gore on those wasn't terrible. That little alien wannabe thing was not a bad puppet.
Oh, there is a lot of stuff in this that was ripped out of Alien, and early
Oh,
versions
yeah.
of Alien too. Um, when we're talking about the climax of the film, remind me about that.
Okay.
But
Yeah, but it's one of those things where I'm not. It's like, yeah, okay. The point would be give me money to shoot something real, but like how do you just the script? It's so boring. It's just a series of. It's like a series of Michael Bay set pieces on Quaaludes and Dramamine, and after a sharp blow to the head.
I think I can see where you're going with that, but I would have to disagree that there is a better thing to compare it to.
Okay.
It's a D&D sesh.
I didn't catch that.
It's a game of
the-
Dungeons and Dragons. It's a role playing session.
Oh, okay. It's the Tomb of Borers.
Right. Because basically this is the movie plays out like an actual game of an actual like couple of sessions of a role playing game set out. You have your heroes get together. There's a bunch of meandering conflicts. There's traps. There's monsters. There's a conflict. The plot changes several times throughout because people make dumb decisions. Things of that nature. And it's the type of thing that it seems really cool when you're doing it because it's fun and you're in it, but that takes a lot of editing to turn it into a story.
Yeah.
And that editing did not occur here. But but it follows the rhythm of a tabletop role playing game because you go from like encounter to encounter to encounter to encounter to boss to completion.
Yeah, and there's no escalation in anything. Like their final obstacle is some string leading to a bomb. Now, I mean, and maybe it's just me, but I would think you probably wouldn't want a heavy explosive that close to your core of power, where any old twerp can just wander along and set it off. You'd think you kind of want that further out.
Well,
Just a thought, you know.
now
Maybe not so close to all that sensitive equipment that burns off people's faces.
Yeah, there was a lot of, and there was a lot of stuff that seemed like kind of cargo cult storytelling.
Mm.
Like they burn off the Potsylvanian woman's
Malaria.
face. Yeah. Yeah, they burn off Natasha's face, and she's a robot apparently. Although
Yeah.
it,
Which calls into question a whole lot of scenes prior now.
yeah, that twist was not involved.
Anything.
Yeah, didn't she get affected by the air sucky away thing?
No, she just got pain zapped by the Dark One once.
Oh
or
yeah,
twice.
yeah. The now you actually removed the protective core and went into the protective casing and went into the nuclear
Yeah.
reactor and stared directly at the elephant's foot. By which I mean you actually watched this movie raw.
Mm-hmm.
Question 1. Does it make any more sense?
Not remotely, because here's the thing. If the brains hadn't had to cut a nudity scene out of the movie, like if they had just done what some other instances would do, where they just put a silhouette or hide the as Jim Sterling would put it, the breasts exposed for our pleasure. If they had left that sequence in, they wouldn't have needed to use Commando Cody at all.
Ah, it's that
Because
long?
that is the only thing that was cut out of the Mystery Science version of the movie, the nudity sequence. And that nudity sequence is long and boring. Incredibly boring. Because, okay, I will describe to y'all what happens here in this scene. Because we've got Valerian, deep in the power station lies the pleasure machine. And Valeria walks in, and she walks into the cage, and she's got her back to the camera, and she drops that shawl thingy she's wearing, and then it kind of pulls back, and then we've got these two silhouettes of like a man and a woman in front of her, and they just do this liturgical dance arm wavy bullshit. And you can tell that the woman isn't wearing a top because of the silhouettes. And Valeria just kind of, I mean, she's not even, the thing is, I guess it's supposed to be like she's rotating, except she's clearly doing it herself, because you can see her taking the steps to turn around. So that her breasts are exposed for our pleasure. And she has that same power down expression. She has that same, it is now safe to turn off your computer expression that she has whenever she's not delivering a line. Just dead. And it goes on forever.
Wow.
And we just kind of, then we get a little bit of a close-up, and then we pull back. And that is all they had to cut out of this movie. And yikes.
Yeah, one thing that that our audience should know is that the reason we're not delving deeply into the plot of this film or recapping it really is that there's not much of one.
No.
And
no.
if we were to attempt to explain it, it would sound like we were just sort of rambling about a boring half-remembered dream.
Yeah. I mean, we're probably not going to recap the movies, because most of these you can find. You can actually watch this one on the official Mystery Science channel.
Oh yeah, they got
and
that.
You can watch the full, you can watch the movie unriffed on YouTube. Well, I believe it is a legal upload from the actual producers, whoever owns it now.
Yeah, it's it sure is a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it always did stick out to me, too, because, like I said, I came into Mystery Science when the first season was effectively all there was, because they weren't going to show us the KTMA stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Partially because KTMA didn't have the rights to a lot of the movies they showed. I mean, they apparently they just flat out didn't have them. Or at least they didn't after a while. Like, KTMA, the channel, might have had them, but, nah. But I forgot where I was going.
Well, you and the movie have something in common.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, no, I mean, this one stood out to me because, like I said, it was the first season, you only had those 13 episodes, and it was one of 3 movies in color.
Huh.
And it was, like, the only really modernish one, too. Because the other one was something from, like, Women of the Prehistoric Planet, which I want to say was, like, early 70s at best.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And Moon 02, which is incredibly 70s and British, so, it feels like it's at least the 60s, if
Right,
not the 50s. Yeah. But it was just... Yikes. This movie, it's just interminable. But it is a darkly fascinating movie to me. Just
now, I
like
would
the attempts at comedy from the Freebot.
You know what he reminds me of?
Let's saw.
He reminds me of the robot sidekick comedy character in that one movie that David Hasselhoff is in for a couple minutes at the end. Jeez, this is a bad time for me to blank on the name of that film.
Was it the fakey comedy movie about the dinosaur Viking in time or some shit?
Oh, no. This is when Hasselhoff was young. Let me see.
The one that was on Mystery Science. In the Netflix season?
Yeah, the one with the cowboy robot and...
Oh, yeah. Why have I just blanked on that one?
Because the part of your brain that remembers names, the part of your brain that remembers other things are not the same.
Yeah.
Well,
also, I think we're also fighting against, Netflix.
Star Crash!
Star Crash, thank you. I knew it was Star something, and I had Star Raiders in my mind because that was like the most recent Riff Tracks theater event. So it's like, it's not Star Raiders.
Yeah, and Star Crash came out in 1978, which means that basically someone walked out of a viewing of Star Wars and said, we gotta make us a movie.
Yeah.
But we'll address that later on if we ever talk about Star Crash.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of feel like that's where this came from.
Yeah. Oh, well...
I mean, it's got the stink of wannabe Star Wars all over it.
Oh yeah, it's bathed in that popcorn butter. But
yeah.
It's
I love there's a detail in this movie that I really enjoy. Mm-hmm. It is the guard bots. Have you noticed there's never more than 2 of them on screen at any given time?
I did notice that.
They had enough for 2 guard bot costumes, and again, they don't look like robots, but the costumes aren't bad. They are fully formed. You don't see zippers.
They look
like
have a uniform,
something. If nonsensical design.
I have to wonder if maybe this had a lot of props from another production.
Well, we know they took the music from another production.
Because, think about your guard bots and Torque. Torque looks like a peeled prawn. He's not a robot. He's got little feelers and...
Look at that. It looks like sneeze stalactites.
He looks like a crustacean alien.
Yeah.
And then you got the worm puppets, and you got the egg thing from the climax.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if these were reused props or if another production shut down and they just swept in and took their shit. But
could be, because those costumes are very detailed and very
I'm wondering if it might not
And
have been.
there's clearly some budget put into the costuming there
I
for the robots and stuff.
and this is something I just now realized. It feels a lot like the movie sets and props were probably originally intended for an Alien mockbuster, and
Yeah.
then switched over to this through some quirk of production. Maybe when Star Wars turned out to be more profitable, and those coattails wound up being something to chase because the at the climax of the movie.
Well, I mean, this was 1986. I mean, Jedi was well out, and we were well into Transformers at the time, so...
Well, yeah, but like, yeah, but you, there's a lot of stuff that's just very alien about the whole scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, they right up to the fact that they had a fully working chest burster rig,
Mm-hmm.
and that scream that that soldier with the chest with the parasite thing that came out of him, that didn't seem like it was an insignificant prop build.
No.
For what is,
And I mean, I will say this: the robot Valeria face is actually not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty decent makeup.
Yeah, but you got like some really alien-y looking robots. You've got a chest burster rig, and then there's the big thing at the end. The evil one,
The dog one.
the dark one. Yeah. Yeah, the dark one is supposed to be a robot. I
Is
thought. Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't think we ever really know what the dark one is. He's just like an avocado with some
yeah, that's what.
snot on a coat hanger.
Okay, this is something that's not well known, but it is a lot of stuff changed in the production of the movie Alien, and a lot of stuff was cut out, and a lot of stuff changed between Alien and Aliens. And there are deleted scenes that were filmed and set up for Alien, where for the first Alien movie, where there was an alternative life cycle of the xenomorph, and it didn't involve a queen. And what happens is Ripley runs across one of the crew members that had been taken by the alien that you assume has just been killed and eaten or whatnot. And instead, he's been glued to the wall like the guys in Aliens eventually would be, only he's turning into an egg. Like he's starting to like there's eggs, there's like enough there's several eggs, and then he's partway between human and egg. And he's being horribly transformed into an alien egg.
Cuckoo-ca-joo.
And that scene was cut for time or for story or whatnot, but people knew about it. It was in Fangoria. The footage was visible in various things. And I find it really, really difficult to believe that this movie that had so many stolen elements from Alien just happens to have its kidnapped, father figure who's being sent to the Dark One absorbed into a giant egg that he's halfway shifted into. Because that did look like a big frickin' xenomorph egg, basically. And so I'm wondering if that's if again they were doing some sort of attempt at doing an Alien knockoff and wound up shifting over to this thing. Entirely speculation on my part, but if anybody who worked for
Empire Pictures or Tim Kincaid
or Empire Pictures or Golan Globus, who probably weren't involved with this, but anybody who worked with Golan Globus probably has supernatural knowledge of every shitty film.
And, of course they're going to be searching for everything about their movies, because what else they got to do?
Well, hey, it happens. It happens. No, I'm not kidding.
Oh no, yeah.
I got friended by Rick Sloan on Facebook because years before I had done one
Deadly
piece
Games
of
thing going
Hobgoblin's
for us now,
fan art.
yeah.
I have had contact with a remarkable number of people who have made unpopular films, let's say, because I have shown an unhealthy appreciation for them. So yes, if you worked on Robot Holocaust and would like to confirm or deny my conspiracy theory about it originally being an alien knockoff movie, please contact us.
Yes. We want to know.
And I mean, Lupa finds out obscure stuff about the stuff she's obsessed with all the time, because people find it. Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
I mean,
Why not?
I'm not saying she's directly
responsible.
responsible
There's not much more to
for
talk about with the movie. I kind of want to move on to like the stuff surrounding it.
Okay, let's do that.
I mean, obviously, first season, kind of rough. They were still finding their feet.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I would still rather watch this than a lot of season 3 and a healthy chunk of 4 myself. But I admit that I had season 1 riffing for a long time, for like a couple years, where that was it, and I was very used to the pace and the tone of the jokes.
Right. I got briefly exposed to Mystery Science Theater around, I'd say, season, I forget what the first stuff I watched was, but I kind of got reintroduced towards the end of the Joel era.
Mm-hmm.
Around.
It was picking up then. I like a lot of the late season 4 and season 5 is pretty good.
Yeah, and then going into Mike, and Mike is my golden age.
It really picked up then.
Yeah. The stuff I wound up seeing the most was the stuff that we could get on video cassette. So it was like a lot of Ator.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a season 1 episode, and it was clearly because they were sick of doing stuff that wasn't in color.
Yeah. Which was unusual at the time, because I seem to remember a lot of KTMA ended up being like 70s stuff that was in color.
But KTMA was...
The penchant for black and white, Republic stuff was kind of new, and then, they were doing a lot of Commando Cody, and it also explains why they would later move on to do like a teensploitation movie.
Mm-hmm.
They were clearly starting to, it's another black and white Lugosi thing.
Yeah. Well, also, they were very limited by what they could afford, and black and white movies are the cheapest, or were in that era.
Yeah.
And it was like...
This might be one of the most expensive episodes they did.
Yeah, it could have been. The fact that it was an Italian direct-to-video flop probably helped a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, I would classify... I mean, personally, I'm a big fan of late season 1 stuff. It is a much drier riff than pretty much anything else in the entire run.
Yeah.
It's a little more conversational. It's a little more dry snark.
Yeah. I've learned to appreciate season 1 a little bit more, but it's still not my favorite.
Oh no. I would not begin to say that it's like at its best.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot because of very personal reasons, but like I said, I do think that it's for a certain level, for a certain kind of humor. If you like your dry snark, I think there's good stuff in there. And there's a couple episodes of season 1 that I'm very much looking forward to talking about, just because I think the movies in them are dumb fun. But honestly, this is one I wouldn't mind seeing Riff Tracks try and tackle again.
Yeah, this is one that does...
I wouldn't mind seeing a new riff.
This does deserve another group of people taking a joust at it. Just because there's so much to riff on, and the riffing styles have advanced, and they're much quicker now and more tight. And it's a very different experience.
Yeah.
It's just, I've seen, I think, 3 different riffs of Manos, The Hands of Fate at this time.
I think there's only 2. I don't think Joel's gone through that again.
I think the third one was not by that group, though. It was another riffing group. I might have seen it on YouTube or something.
I know Santa Claus Conquers the Martians has 3 goes. There's the original Mystery Science, then Riff Tracks, and Cinematic, and Cinematic Titanic.
Yeah.
Redid their version of
But yeah, I've even if
It's on the DVD pack. That's right. Yeah.
even if I'm misremembering and I
Uncut.
haven't seen 3 things of Manos, because I have also
Yeah.
seen Manos more than any Mystery Science Theater I think I've ever seen. Well, it was used as a friend group initiation ritual for a long time. Like, can you make it through Manos? And
I don't want to go too far into Manos here, but wow, I would not show Manos as a first episode to anybody. I'm sorry.
I'll admit my high school group of friends had a degree of teenage sadism. I'm not afraid to say that. But yeah, the point being is that I have seen many, many instances where one piece of media is tackled by several different riffing teams, or the same riffing team across several decades.
Yeah.
And you get completely different results.
I mean, hell, even the different riffs of like the sci-fi era, because they've redone Time Chasers and Space Mutiny, and they are very different riffs.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying that because I think eventually we're going to wind up having to do redundant riffs of stuff that's been riff by riff tracks for shorts, but
Oh, we already have.
yeah, I mean more of it. But
Yeah.
But yeah, this was an interesting one because it's happening early in the career for them essentially.
And things are starting to coalesce. They're finding their humor. They're finding the right riffs per minute, I guess.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one.
And it helps that there's so many long pauses in this one, so they can really densely pack in the jokes.
Oh yeah, this movie...
And like I said, it's a very conversational riff too, as well, because I mean they were still coming fairly fresh off of conversational improv riffing.
Right. And one of the things that I find interesting about this one is that it's early MST-3K tackling the kind of movie you would expect to see in the last couple of seasons of the original run.
Yeah,
like,
it is a very Netflix Mystery Science era movie.
I was gonna say it could have also nestled in there around like
Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, Soul Taker and in that era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, It Lives by Night, all that. Yeah, I can see that.
Werewolf.
Paul, take it to the womb of questions.
What? It's like just...
And they were starting to get onto running jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the constant ragging on Valeria's terrible. I mean, it wasn't as solid as them riffing on Natalie and Werewolf. But they were there. Also, it does contain a sample of one of my favorite little running gags that they just kind of abandoned after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize it's not a great running gag, but I did always enjoy it. It was just a character would say a line, and then just all three of them just shut up. They just had it with that character. Just
shut up.
Yeah, there was Joel had this whole this running thing with riffing on the Nuge. That showed up in a lot, because that shows up in Ator, and that shows up in a couple of others I can't think of off the top of my name.
I think this was before he revealed he was a completely horrible person.
Well, yeah. This was before he had an opportunity, and he was just, dude who...
He was just the Nuge.
He was just the Nuge.
Locked, cocked, and ready to rock.
If he'd never talked and just kept showing up at the frickin' county fairs, no one would think badly of him. Just kept playing his music and doing county fairs.
And this was actually my first exposure to Spinal Tap. When they're wandering around the basement, all the "Hello, Cleveland." I thought it was funny, even though I didn't get the reference. But I actually ended up having an explain. Oh, that's what that. I need to check out this Spinal Tap thing, and then I enjoyed it very muchly.
Oh yeah, they would make a lot of Spinal Tap references. One of the other ones I saw a lot was the Pod People with Trumpy.
Yeah.
My early stuff was a lot of that, this is another film that we've given a different name to. That those releases. And they have a similar, the reference to the Druids song in that one. And That was also my first exposure to a Spinal Tap joke.
Yeah. Actually, I do want to talk about the movie. One little thing I just remembered that this movie, the fact that this was my first was kind of bittersweet because back when we thought Mystery Science was over the first time, when Comedy Central stopped picking it up, this movie shares a main theme, quote, air quote, 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 with Laser Blast.
Ah.
It's got that same little thing, doon, doon, doon.
Oh.
So when we all gathered up at a friend's house to watch Laser Blast, what we thought was the final episode, and the movie starts up and it's that music, and I'm just like, oh, fuck. Unintentional bookending. Nice.
Yeah, you got yourself a narrative thread there, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they had to go make more and ruin it.
No, it just means that's the end of the
Thanks,
first
guys.
picture. That's the end of the first movie that was about you.
They put a music cue on the mantelpiece in the first act, so they had to use it in the third.
Yeah. It's funny that two different knockoff,
Alien
clearly
knockoff.
Star Wars chasing movies.
Star Wars / Alien knockoffs use the same music.
Yeah. Yeah. We should.
No, there's a weird thing about this episode, and I'm not quite sure how it happened. It's fairly clear that at least two of the mid-movie sketches are in the wrong order.
Yeah. Yeah, because don't they reference something that happens in the film before it happens?
Yeah, they reference the whole She-Zone Amazon thing before it happens. And then the third, I really think that just the first and third sketches got swapped by accident.
Yeah.
Because the third one is a fairly generic, roaming the apocalypse scenario where they're playing along.
Yeah.
That could work and I gotta say, I kind of like the dynamic of Joel and the bots in these early ones in the sketches where Joel isn't the daddy figure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is very reminiscent of what Mike would become.
Right.
Just that kind of weird guy that they hang out with. And there's a lot of, I don't want to get into it too hard, but there's a lot of, they really play up the robotness of Tom and Crow in these, where they just don't understand humanity at all as a concept. There's a joke early on in the movie I really liked. Was it Joel Von Strassen or whoever, the guy who plays Clayton, the comedy robot? His credit pops up. Is that you, Joel? Nah, it's the other Joel. There's two of us. And that works really well that early.
Yeah.
I realize that they have to grow and evolve, but I do kind of miss that. The bots are clearly not understanding just what makes people happen.
And the movies do not help.
No.
They are not educational in that regard.
No, there's a lot of sketches early on where, Joel's trying to explain these weird things. And it is also part of that whole late night host thing. Mm-hmm. That the show was still very...
very much in that Joe Bob Briggs kind of place.
Yeah.
God.
Where they do these little pseudo-educational shorts about, about stop motion and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's... I do like that they have these... early on, audience participation was a big important step. Because they would have, their answering machine in the KTMA days. And so they had to transfer that to mail. So I like that they... And I also just like that there was enough time and early on that they could have these little contests to, name the plant guy.
Yeah.
At the end. That's not something you could really pull off now.
No, it was a very different...
Unless you were a YouTube series, basically.
Yeah, it's a very different era of television, and I think that's one of the main reasons I would recommend this one, because it's not the funniest Mystery Science Theater, and it's certainly not the most enjoyable core movie.
No,
but it does give you a glimpse of what the general milieu of that particular
Muslix.
Yeah, the general muslix of that time period of ultra niche geek was.
Yeah, it's, I want to say very Church of the Subgenius.
Yeah, there's a bit of that flavor there. The whole thing is it's just it's irreverent in a way that is really really focused on sarcasm.
Yeah.
And
Which, I can't imagine why we would like that.
yeah. Well, also it's and that's one thing I do find kind of fun when you go back through like comedy is you find is like what's considered irreverent is different generation by generation.
hmm
And in the 80s, it was really a whole lot of just raw sarcasm. And then it got edgier in the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, it was like, it was sarcastic in the 80s. Um, uh,
The 90s kind of gave it, you either got edge or tinged with just surreal and weird.
right, I'm trying to remember what the best word for the 90s part is. It was attitude was the big thing in the 90s. And then in the 2000s, it becomes edge.
Yeah.
And admittingly, a lot of the whole thing with Edge hasn't aged well, and a little of that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like turmeric powder. You don't want to put a whole lot of it. Yeah,
No, I'm just thinking about how badly some stuff ages. Like, there's comedians who I enjoy, who I will go back and listen to some of their old stuff, and I'm just like,
yeah, problematic.
yeah. Oh, and then some of them are like, yeah, I would never make those jokes. And there's some episodes in here that there are jokes that they would clearly not make now.
Oh yeah. That's one thing you have to keep in mind when you're looking, especially comedy from previous eras, is that the what's considered acceptable has changed. People know a lot more now and have much wider experiences with people just in general. And also, the cultural context changes a lot in ways that we don't fully understand a decade out.
Well, I will say that Mystery Science has actually aged better than a lot of things comedy-wise.
I think a lot of that
They've largely avoided a lot of there's there's a couple of key, ones that are just like ouch now, but
yeah. I mean, you still have.
by and large, it's Mystery Science has managed to age well.
Well, I think part of that is because it was from the Joel era, especially, it was considered a family show.
Yeah.
So it was all ages comedy, which means that it would tend to lean into the goofy and the sarcastic, and it would not delve a lot into areas.
I mean, there would be the adult stuff, but it
Yeah.
wouldn't, they kind of kept a lot of the explicitness out.
Right, and even the adult stuff, it's kind of a kid-friendly packaging of it. It's designed in such a way that anyone who shouldn't be hearing this joke, it'll tend to fly over their heads.
They'd mask it. I like the bit where it's, we pull back on scientist daughter lady, and she's clearly stacked. And their response is just, ha, I miss Earth, you guys. I can see why. Yeah, all that equipment. Yeah, it's neat.
See, that's a good way. That's a good way of handling it. Gives it kind of an ageless quality, and also the fact that they're riffing on stuff that's older than them kind of brings them out of their time
Yeah,
period
the material itself, the worst you get is that kind of ugly low-grade sexism that's just kind of everywhere in 50s stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost cartoonish and quaint.
Yeah, it's not sophisticated enough to be sinister.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is one of the.
I don't remember what episode it was. It was one of the Commando Codies. It's just like, I still say this is no trip for a woman. You'll be very glad to have somebody to cook your meals. Yeah, and pretty soon I'll be able to vote.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, just, they just smack it like that.
Yeah.
Yep, this is incredibly sexist and dumb.
Yeah. But no, all in all, a good episode, certainly a formative one.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd say that this is definitely. I mean, it's definitely, like I said, it was. I'm pretty sure it was the most recent thing they'd ever done. So it kind of proved that they have a good. You could get a good range of what kind of movies you could show on Mystery Science.
yeah,
What worked.
and they do genuinely seem excited about it.
Yeah.
Like
There is still a love for the movie. I mean, they're still clearly invested.
yeah, some of those black and white ones from the first season, and like in the later seasons, like the Sandy Franks, you can tell they're just weary of those.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to tackling, and this is probably going to piss them. I'm not looking forward to tackling anything with kaiju in it.
It's because there haven't been any like really good ones.
It's part of it's the movies are interminable, and I'm also going to again to piss people off. I feel like they were in a bit of a riffing slump through a large chunk of that Sandy Frank era.
Oh yeah, yeah. The one with from the most recent Netflix season, the kaiju one in that one wasn't bad though.
I don't remember which one that was.
They drill into the Icelandic
Oh,
one.
Reptilicus?
Reptilicus, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I liked the Netflix season. I didn't. It's not as good as it's been in the past, but what is?
Yeah, that's fair.
Also,
no, yeah, I would say that if you're interested in checking out really early Mystery Science season 1, I would say that this is probably the strongest one to go with. There's some others I would recommend, but we'll get to them later.
yeah. And
there's some solid stuff in season 1, and I think it's worth watching just to see kind of how this little Cowtown puppet show has evolved.
And if you take a look at the movie and you like it, post your favorite version of the Dogwad in the comments
The
down below.
Draconwa.
Yeah, your favorite interpretation of what she's speaking there.
Trying to say. What the fuck is the Dark One? Is he supposed to be an alien? How did he come to power? What is this? What is his story?
I don't think I've ever had a situation where an MST-3K movie has had me saying, "Wait, we need more exposition."
Yeah, I mean, okay, we got that the robots rebelled because that's a thing that robots all the times do.
Yeah.
They just rebel against humanity. That's just what robots do.
Why are they being run by an avocado?
Yeah, how does the avocado play into it? Why is malaria pseudo-human? And if she's pseudo-human, then why does the pleasure machine work for her?
Yeah.
How does the freebot work? What exactly entails being a free bot? He says like the air slave camps are his only source of revenue. What's the monetary system in this dystopia?
What do they use for currency?
What do they use for currency, and what pay for the upkeep of his mechanical pot? Okay, why would the air slaves have things like that? Who does he buy from? Does the bus run through here?
Yeah, it's a movie that raises so many questions, none of them which actually need to be answered, but all of which will itch like a splinter in your mind.
Because there's so many pauses, you have plenty of time to contemplate this thing if you're paying any attention to the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, the void is sitting there, and it's perfectly willing to stare back at you, but it won't tell you anything useful.
Why are the Amazon ladies, not affected by the atmosphere? And why didn't Neo bring anybody else with him? We are raising an army to destroy the Dark One. Where are they?
Also, you even could have just stopped that sentence early, and it would have worked as well. Why were the Amazon ladies?
Yeah. Well, because 1980s and those angry lesbians were everywhere. They were the boogeyman of the early 80s, them damn feminists. I'm not really joking.
Oh, I know. I'm laughing because I'm remembering it and just how, just that was that's like the people that were terrified of Y2K. It's
Yeah.
just like it's mostly a boogeyman that you made up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I think we've prattled on quite well about this one. Like I said, absolutely worth checking out.
That sure was a movie.
I mean, it's a fairly dense riff, but it is it's dense but slow and dry. like a fine dinner wine, maybe. I don't know.
Or a fruitcake.
Yeah.
Dense.
No, that's
slow,
pretty good. Yeah,
dry.
it's a pretty good fruitcake. Because you can have a good fruitcake.
And in both cases, the experience is greatly improved when you soak the thing in rum. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, good night, folks. Hey, Pipples! Did you like that bit of nonsense? Well, then why don't you click like and subscribe and press that bell or whatever YouTube wants you to do?
You can also do us a big solid by joining our Patreon, where you'll get to join us for live streams, get early access to the newest videos, and other such things.
Geek Vision.